Item number 10, clerk.
Item number 10, under Supervisor Brandau, adopt a resolution establishing a parents' matter approach to reviewing age-appropriate children's books in Fresno County libraries and direct staff to return to the board within 90 days with bylaws for implementation of Community Parent and Guardian Review Committee.
Okay, Supervisor Brandau, it's your item.
I heard you have a line down
Excuse
the
me,
hall.
we have to wait for the board presentation first.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Well, hopefully this will be less controversial than Measure C. Today, I just want to introduce my Parents Matter Act to my colleagues, but in all reality, they already received documentation when the agenda goes out. I also held a press conference last week so that I could kind of get the discussion out in the public prior to today so that we wouldn't have to rehash every single item today. So I'm going to do kind of a short form overview of how I got to the Parents Matter Act, and then I've got more detail if my colleagues want it. So I want to start by saying this really all got started by a phone call from a parent. And a parent told me that his wife and 3 daughters had visited the Clovis branch of the Fresno County Public Libraries that day and had seen a number of books that really he had serious concern with. And so he wanted to talk to me about those books. He sent me photos of some of those books and asked me how, why, who makes these decisions, how does it all happen? And so really, I didn't have a lot of the answers myself, so I just started that same day by making some phone calls to our CAO and said, here's some of the questions that I have, here's some of the questions that I've been asked, help me get to some of these answers. So Paul, in turn, had some quick questions with the department head of the Fresno County Public Libraries, and I began to get those questions answered. And the very next day, I decided, I'm going to go down and actually visit the Clovis Library myself, because so I've been hearing about this concern. He did send me a couple of text photos and everything, but I wanted to see how intense the situation was. So I went down to the Clovis branch and sat down there in the children's section. So I should have said this to begin with. We're talking about the children's section. Okay, children's section, picture books. And so I sat down amongst the picture books and started looking at the ones that I had been told about. And I can understand real quickly why parents would have concerns about some of these books. Now, not all books, but there's a good chunk of books. And I'm not talking about in our library system thousands of books or even really hundreds of books, but there's a pretty solid smattering of several dozen books that have sexually graphic images, or they talk about complex, controversial gender issues. So these are the books that I started getting more and more complaints about, concerns about. I told a couple of my friends over at the Clovis City Council. I shared it with Supervisor Magsig because the truth is the Clovis branch is in his district. It's not in my district. And so, but I did go on to visit 2 libraries in my district as well as the downtown library right down the street. So I ended up visiting 4 of our many libraries to kind of get a feeling or an overview of what's going on. So before I go too much further, I always feel like when you have this conversation, you have to talk about the books themselves, and you really have to share the books themselves, because if you don't, then the rubber never meets the road, and this is just a conversation to have on paper. And that's never good. It's not good to make decisions like that. So instead of going through all of these, here's 7 books that I checked out from the library in order to get, bring myself up to speed and to be able to show people. I'm not going to go through all 7 of those books, but each one of them has an example. Some of these books, so there's two different situations that have parents concerned. Sexually graphic images. Some of these books have sexually graphic images. Even simple books like Making a Baby. It's not written from any political agenda. It's just about making a baby. It's perfectly normal. Some of this stuff is, and then there are gender questions. This book here, Being You, A First Conversation About Gender, quickly starts at a 4-year-old's birthday party. and it wants to introduce gender concepts to a 4-year-old at the 4-year-old's birthday party. Now look, here's what's interesting about Parents Matter Act. If a parent really wants to introduce their 4-year-old to gender questions, concerns, let their 4-year-old make a decision about their own gender. If the parent wants to do that, the Parents Matter Act is still going to allow that. But it's going to make some of this stuff inaccessible just to children by themselves. The next book, really, I'm going to illustrate by this poster. This poster shows a page from this book here. So it's real, and it's in our library. And it shows two adult males with a little boy facing them and a little girl putting on her socks in a locker room shower scene. Now, the goal of this book is really to talk to little kids about bodies are changing. Your body's going to change. And I think that's actually a good goal. But in what world is it acceptable to talk about bodies changing by showing two little kids in a locker room with two adult men with their junk to be seen by this is craziness. And this stuff is hypothetically right next to the Cat in the Hat in the Fresno County Public Library System.
No, it's nonfiction.
Okay? So now I've shared a little bit, and I could go on, and but I want to move to what I came up with. I started talking, had more conversations with the CAO, and through him, through our library staff, with our county council, and looking at what could be done. This conversation is happening all across the country as parents get more and more concerned about what's happening in libraries. In most of the cases, it deals with school libraries. But in many cases, it still deals with public libraries like our library system. And I had a lot of talks with supervisors. In some counties, they call them commissioners, but I had talks with people that are in our same spot. What are you doing? What have you done that's been successful? So I did not reinvent the wheel. And so here's what the Parents Matter Act does, and I think it's an appropriate response. It takes the books that have sexually explicit photos, or pictures, I guess, and it takes the controversial, complex gender issues, and it says that the children can't have access to those books without their parents. So we're not removing anything. I've already heard this word ban. I've heard that word ban 10,000 times. There's no ban here. Every one of these books is still going to be in the library. Still there. Okay? Where is the proper place for it to be displayed? It's not the biggest question on the planet. We have rating systems for movies. We have rating system for video games. Books are unrated. So books are unrated. And so all we're doing is taking some of these books with the sketchy materials and making them, if a parent wants to use them as a resource. You want to use it's perfectly normal as a resource, it's still there for you as a resource. But it's not available. This poster that I just showed a moment ago, story about that one, how that parent got a hold of me, is that child went in to do a book report on the human respiratory system. And that's the photo that they ended up moving through as they were looking for stuff about the respiratory system. It's unacceptable, really. So the Parents Matter Act only does two things, and neither one of them is the biggest deal on the planet. It takes some of these books and says we're going to make them inaccessible to the kids only by themselves in the children's section. They're still there, and we're going to let the librarians, working with our CAO, figure out how that gets done. I'm not trying to micromanage. I'm going to take time out to say that I think we have a great library system, and I think our employees are doing a good job. They have a lot to do, and I'm not trying to micromanage them. They can figure out how that all works, the nuts and the bolts. But my role is to respond to the parents in our community who are really starting to get concerned about the role of government in these sexual issues for their kids. Now, I had a press conference the other day, and half my goal to have that press conference was to get that stuff out there so we wouldn't have to have a big 2-hour debate here today. And so that's why I'm not going through. I was told the other day that I used too many examples from these books, so I'm already done with that. But at the press conference, I basically heard two major concerns, and then following up with interviews from the media afterwards, I want to address those concerns. One of the concerns was that this is a book ban. And I feel like I've already shared with that, but there's no books leaving our county library. This is not a ban, okay? It's simply, where does the book get displayed? And then the second thing is that I'm targeting the LGBTQ plus community. That also is not true. Of these 7 books, 3 of the 7 books are not written from any political agenda at all. They're mostly about growing human sexuality, okay? So this is not about targeting the LGBTQ crowd at all. And so, like I said, 3 out of the 7 of these books are not written from that platform. And yet they contain sexually graphic material that should not be accessible to small children in the children's section. So that is the content of the act. It also creates a committee that we would appoint to create some standards for Fresno County when it comes to these issues. And that committee would also be able to review books. The review of those books could come from librarians, the committee members themselves, or members of the community. But even that committee is not empowered to remove books from the library or to stop future books from coming to our library. It doesn't even involve that. That committee is just going to review books and try to help figure out where in the library any particular book should be displayed. That's it. Thank you.
Just want to make a couple comments before I ask for comments from the board, is that what we're going to do is limit the public comments to 20 minutes and ask each person to comment for 2 minutes. So we're going to do that. Now, I want to show you something. These are the emails that I received. I don't know how many the other supervisors received, but I want to say thank you for your emails. I want to say thank you for your phone calls. I want to say thank you for talking to me at the door when I knocked on your door to get your thoughts in neighborhoods. And if you've already made a comment through this, believe me, the supervisors have read it. And what you may want to do is on public comment is maybe to allow other folks that haven't sent emails or phone calls or anything, and give them some time to speak as well. So, and really what my preference would be that we get half and half for it and half against it, but I know that's not going to happen simply because it's an important issue, and I know everybody wants to make comments, so we'll do what we can with that. Supervisor Magsig, you had a comment?
Yeah, quick comment. So again, I would ask for respect. We're going to be hearing from people who have different opinions, who are going to come up to the front. One thing I want to point out too is one of the things I heard, which I really want to discourage, when Supervisor Brandau was speaking, people were speaking from the audience to him. That's very disrespectful. When you come up to the podium and you speak, you will not see me cut people off. I'm going to listen to your comments, and I would ask that if someone else is speaking at the dais, please give them the respect that they're giving to you. So thank you.
And what we'll do, I'm going to deviate a little bit as chairman and open up to comments from the public before the board and wait for the board to make comments afterwards. So we want to hear what you have to say, but please honor the 2-minute time limit. If you go past that, all you're doing is taking away time for other people. So thank you. And the time right now is approximately 11 o'clock, so 11:20 will be our limit. And clerk, if you'll keep track of that. Thank you. All right, you're on.
Sorry for our overzealousness. Jennifer Cruz, LGBTQ community member and advocate for human rights. She, her pronouns for the confused woman behind me who shouted a list of pronouns at me after moving my belongings and taking my seat this morning. and saying quietly words like groomer at me. These are the people supporting item 10, and they should not be aligned with any of you. As of 8 a.m., there were over 2,000 signatures and letters that were sent in to you all opposing this resolution. There was a letter from ACLU Northern California. When we don't want our tax dollars to be used for lawsuits because of item 10. Each of you sit in a tax-funded supervisor chair, and each of you has also failed to take a stand for marginalized communities in Fresno County at different times. One time in June, when you voted 5-0 to limit flags on county buildings in Pride Month. People here in this room represent over 2,000 people opposing this resolution, and I know that they're planning on a mobilization to replace you at the ballot box if this measure passes. Brandau's parent committee would be made up of appointees who are not qualified to screen and select public library books. Libraries currently have every guideline in place to protect children. People under the age of 13 can't even get a library card without their parent's signature. Let the qualified library professionals continue to do their job. Vote no on this resolution. And that's our request. That's my request. Vote no on the resolution, or we'll see you at the ballot box to replace you.
Good morning, board members. I'm Vanushi Kachadurian with Leave Our Kids Alone, a national and now worldwide movement with over 50,000 members and over 30 affiliate groups. Some of those groups are Parents' Voice, Gays Against Groomers, Moms for America, Dad's Army, Our Duty Legal Group, and many more. We are a variety of race, religion, and political parties, but with one goal: to protect our children from hypersexualization and restore our parental rights. We are here to support the Parents Matter Act and compel the County Board of Supervisors to approve the sensible protection of minors. There's a lot of emotion here today, but let's stick to the facts. It's a federal offense to distribute pornographic images and materials under Section 2256 of Title 18 United States Code to minors under 18 years of age. There are several other codes as well. Books already in the ALA.org, American Library Association list of 10 most challenged books. 5 are geared toward the LGBTQIA+, considered to have sexual explicit images inappropriate for minors. They are Genderqueer, Lawn Boy, All Boys Aren't Blue, This Book is Gay, and Beyond Magenta. Having viewed some of these books, I am appalled that any child would have access to these age-inappropriate images that depict oral sex of a minor with an adult or the same sex, with suggestions of, have you tasted your vaginal slime? Depictions of a medical speculum used for gynecological exams shaped as a spear going through an image of a woman, and so on. We find them to be inappropriate for minors as well as very offensive toward womanhood. The opposition will argue we're just trying to educate kids on transgenderism, and it's no more sexually graphic or violent than other books. But other books are not readily available for minors or have graphics, usually in a cartoonish format, as an illustration geared for minor children who can't even read yet. One more thing I'd like to add is that,
Sorry,
well, no,
thank
you have a
Thank you.
council, you have the California Age Appropriate Design Code that was just passed in September. I'm just trying to quote law.
Hello. Chairperson Quintero. If you don't mind starting my time again, I just want to wait till it's quiet. Thank you. Chairperson Quintero, board members, I believe parents are the best qualified to determine what their children are reading. So what do we do for people who have conservative views? As was stated, just don't let them have a library card, because every library card for a child under, I heard 13, I thought it was 14, needs a parent consent. Problem solved. Also, supervise your child when they're in the library. Problem solved. It's really quite simple. What do we do for people who have more progressive views? Leave the system as it is. Don't take away their rights to determine what is good for a child. The thing that's the most difficult, or I want to say I believe there needs to be age-appropriate material for children in the area of sex education and gender. Look around this room. Look what is happening. The resolution refers to community standards. Standards? Oh no, what you, Mr. Bredefield, think is obscene, I think is informational. Now, that's just our opinion, but you shouldn't decide, I shouldn't decide, it should be by the experts. Who are these experts? People who have 6 years of formal education, they have master's degrees, they're called librarians. There's also other people with child development, background. I'm concerned that any group of 15 local citizens are not qualified under the current system. You're not going to get 15 people who know about sex education or specifically what's age appropriate, child development. That's not what's going to happen. What'll happen is both individuals on both sides of the spectrum are going to push their side. They're going to have an agenda. It will not work. It's just chaos. So I'm opposed to this resolution because, one, parents with more conservative views have solutions to their concerns, and I understand those are real concerns. Two, because of the range of opinions.
Thank you.
I practiced this, and it was a minute and a half. Dang it.
And you did a good job.
Thank you.
Chairman Quintero, members of the board, I'm in favor of the Parents Matter Act for multiple reasons. One of those is the government shouldn't be in the business of providing sexually explicit material to my children. Secondly, I wanted to go over a couple things that was talked about. You pulled up that stack of emails. And if you go on right now, if you go on Instagram and you look at PFLAG and LGBT Fresno, they have made this into a book ban, saying this was, please email the supervisors. This is going to be a book ban, which is all propaganda. We've already heard here today that it just moves it out of the children's section of the library. Also, people are saying their children are going to be hovering over them in the library. People that on my side, usually want to raise independent children. So if my child's 6 years old, I can sit 10 feet away and say, hey, go pick out a book in that section of the library. And I shouldn't have to be hovering over him, worried that he's actually going to go bring back something that you showed us earlier. Again, this is not a book ban. This is just removing age-inappropriate material from the children's section. And I asked you guys, when you think about this and when you do your vote, it's the same group that wants grown men in lingerie dancing for children at drag queen story hours is the same group that wants to keep this sexually explicit material in the children's section. I don't know where we've came to. I know it's going to be a little different from when we were all kids, but let's think of morals and values and what we want our children to actually be checking out at the library and what we want them to be seeing at the library. It does not stop a parent, since they're talking about parents being right there with their child. The parent can go check out any book they want for their child. That's what they can do with their library card. So again, this is not a book ban. I support it, and I hope the rest of you do too. Thank you.
Hello, Chairman and Board of Supervisors. The books are still accessible, As Steve said, this is not a book ban. This is merely moving the sexually explicit books out of the children's section. The books are still accessible for any child with their parents' consent. There are books in the library, like Steve showed, that showed adults showering with children, which I personally think is inappropriate for children, and I personally think it's considered grooming. If a parent would like their child to view these books, they still can with their consent. It is merely moving the sexually explicit material out of the children's section to protect their innocence. I would like to ask the supervisors, would you like your children or your grandchildren to stumble upon these sexually explicit books? No adult or government entity should provide access to sexually explicit material to children without express consent, or else it is truly a form of grooming when it is done behind a parent's back or in secret. I've seen signs back there that say, quote, "Your parents' review committee can't decide what my child can choose to pick out," end quote. So are they okay with a librarian doing it? Again, sexually explicit books are still in the library. They just would be moved to a different section, out of the children's section. I am in favor of the Parents Matter resolution. Thank you.
I live at 9198 North Recreation Avenue. Thank you for actually caring about all the parents and constituents in your district. Let's get those consent forms signed and sexual education books out of the children's section. We don't have time to talk about a book about a 4-year-old's birthday about colors. I'm in District 2 and I would love to have a conversation with you. Mi dirección es 9198 Notre Recreation Avenue. Gracias, Señor, para su escucharnos para todos los pueblos, su district. Vamos conseguir sus formas de conciertos para todos sus parentes y eliminar los libros con su educación de sexual en los sección de niños. No tienes tiempo para cumpleaños, un año de 4 años para de colores. Yo vivo en el District 2 en mi hablar encantando tentar una conversación contigo. Gracias.
My name is Michelle Gordon-Hartman. I was a librarian at FCPL for 9 years, and I most recently served as the manager over the collection from 2020 until I resigned my position in September. FCPL has a collection development policy. There's also a reconsideration request procedure. If there's a book in the library that you think should be moved or removed, fill out the form. Several professional librarians are involved with the reconsideration request. Information is gathered, the book is reviewed. Does it meet the selection criteria? Is it shelved correctly? Are there professional reviews? Is there local demand? I answered a challenge to It's Perfectly Normal in June. That book has been checked out over 400 times in our community. It is intended audiences for children, grades 4 through 6, and it is not shelved between 2 picture books. You say your concern is about sexually explicit or obscene materials, but the Supreme Court has already decided this. Vendors cannot sell the library materials that pass the legal threshold of obscene or pornographic. What you're concerned about is the word appropriate, for which there is no legal threshold, because what is appropriate for my 10-year-old is not what may be appropriate for yours. And it is not up to you to decide that for me, and it's not up for me to decide that for you. When challenged at this press conference the other day, that gender identity is not sexual or controversial, Supervisor Brandau responded, "That's your opinion." And that is exactly the point. What you deem as inappropriate, it's not up to you to decide for me. It's not up to a committee. We're talking about restricting access, which is a form of censorship. The library serves all of Fresno County residents, including the ones that you or I may not like. It is the right and the responsibility of a parent or guardian or caregiver to monitor and decide what their child and only their child accesses at the library. The U.S. District Court for the Northern Texas District ruled in Sun versus Wichita Falls, those seeking to restrict access to information should be forced to take affirmative steps to shield themselves from unwanted materials. The onus should not be on the general public to overcome barriers to their own access. I'm asking you to not vote for this. If there's a book that you don't like in the library for you or your child, don't check it out. Problem
Thank you.
solved.
Deep breath. Hi, my name is Marcia Conant. I am a constituent of you, Supervisor Brandau, and I do not support this measure. I am also, this really should be my day. My birthday is Veterans Day. I was a premature birth. Yes, I stayed in the incubator too long. I am an adoptee, and I adopted 2 daughters. So this really should be a good day for me to be here. My daughters attended Fresno Unified School Districts. One of our great delights was going to the public library, checking out books. They both grew into readers, went to UCs. One is currently in medical school. I became a parent late in life, so I have 20-year-old children. I know, shocking. I doubt if I'll ever get to be a grandparent. Anyway, I don't trust that any committee that you all would put together would take into consideration that would be reflective of all of this community. Because we are very diverse in our opinions and our thoughts. Are all of these people who are going to be on this board, do they all have children with library cards? Or do they go to the library? Or do they have specific points of view that aren't going to be diverse? This world gets smaller and smaller because we are all so different. And I just don't trust it. Allow parents to continue to monitor what their children read. Never once when I was at the library with my daughters did somebody bolt off to a section and come back with an inappropriate book. And if they had, we would have talked about it then, because that's what your responsibility is as a parent. I don't want them Googling this stuff and Googling something and some porn coming up. I think that's a much
Thank you.
scarier thought.
Thank you.
Thank you all with due respect.
Brandy News Villegas. I am speaking on behalf of local organization Creative Fresno as a member of the board. Through advocacy events, resources, including the Fresno County mural map and programming, Creative Fresno has spent nearly 20 years working for creative placemaking here in Fresno County. We believe that successful, vibrant cities are characterized and grow when a strong community of creatives drive innovation, engagement, and civic identity. With that, we officially object to the resolution put forth by Supervisor Brandau for the following reasons. Qualified and professionally trained libraries are already properly vetting books through a collection developed process in accordance with the American Library Association. So this is not only a waste of public resources, it's inserting unnecessary power dynamics, and it puts a strain on our librarians. This will just be another reason for our recent college and high school graduates to leave for more accepting counties in California, furthering the brain drain. This takes away the rights of parents for deeming what their kids can and cannot read, and this opens the door to policies that may inhibit our access to creative expression. I want to personally note that I've observed that overwhelming opposition in the public sphere across the political and social spectrum, even in Brandau's district on next door. And also people who have made an effort to be here behind me should be able to speak. Thank you.
We've got approximately 5 minutes left.
Hi, Fresno resident, parent, voter. I am speaking in opposition of the ironically named Parents Matter Act. The 14th Amendment protects a parent's right and the responsibility of guiding their children, and we refuse to hand over that freedom, even in tiny pieces, to any government agency. Every citizen should be alarmed at the overreach of this proposed committee. Parents especially should not willingly give up the right to determine what is best for their children. We, the parents, are the only advisory committee that our children need. This is nothing more than a front for a movement to erase hard-fought visibility, representation, and inclusion of the LGBTQ community, as 75% of the books opposed feature LGBTQ themes. I quote Ronald Reagan, "Freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction. We don't pass it to our children in the bloodstream. Must be fought for, protected, and handed over for them to do the same. Parents Matter Act is redundant, unnecessary, and a waste of taxpayers' money. The existing library system and trained, educated library staff are designed to support the parents' role in selecting age-appropriate literature and resources. All parents matter."
Howdy. My name is Jason. I'm a homeowner in District 1. I'm a dad. I take my kids to the library every week. This Saturday we went. We do more than just read. We do crafts. There's like read to the dog. And the staff is friendly. They're people I trust. So when I hear others claim that they are groomers, I consider that frankly an attack on the community. But what I want to actually talk about is the terrifying aspect of being a parent. Absolutely. It's terrifying to think that they might see something that you'd rather not have a conversation about. But as terrified as I am, I'm not going to go out and try and control everything that they see, and I'm certainly not going to task the government to do that for me. That's all I got. Thanks.
One more. You're the last one.
Thank you. Chairman Quintero, thank you to my neighbors. Good morning, and good morning to the Board of Supervisors. My name is EJ Anahosa. I'm a Fresno Unified teacher, father of 3, and a resident of the Tower District where I live with my wife and 3 children. Supervisor Brandau, thank you for hearing us out today. I believe that this idea is a bad one. On its face, it feels like government overreach. When you say that it's not ideological or anti-LGBTQ or not political, frankly, sir, it's difficult to take you at your word on that. Because we are aware that this is a fad across the country. We do not want to partake in this trend. California's statewide poverty rate is 12%. In Fresno County, it is 20%. That's 1 in 5 people, even in this very room likely, who are living at or beneath the poverty line. The quality of our air is among the most corrupted in the country. Homelessness is increasing, and we are suffering a massive shortage of affordable housing. Furthermore, the chances that a young person in our community could overcome these obstacles and improve these conditions in our community is increasingly slim, as the majority of jobs created in Fresno County in recent years have been minimum wage jobs. If you would like to invest in the future by investing in our youth, please build more libraries. In fact, we would like a new one in the Tower District, please. And please address those issues which I've mentioned. The air that they're breathing is increasingly dirty, and their health outcomes are worsening as time goes by. I appeal to the shared values, the values that we share as the citizens of this great country, the freedom of thought, the freedom of expression, the freedom to be self-determined. One last thought. Diversity of thought is critical and essential to the development of a great mind, and I believe that we want that for our young people in Fresno County. And it's also essential for the development of a great society, which we want here in Fresno County. Thank you, Supervisor Brandau, for hearing us out.
Thank you. I'm sorry that concludes the public comment. I'm sorry. I set the limit at the start. If you'd like to raise your hand to say if you support it, the Parents Matter Act, you can raise your hand right now. If you're against the Parents Matter Act, raise your hand, please. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you all for your comments and appreciate the order that we're having. Now I'd like to bring it up to the dais and have our comments from the board. Thank you all very much. Okay, with that, I'll start with Supervisor Magsig.
A couple of quick comments. Just irony is not lost on me. The previous discussion item, we were talking about Measure C, and many of you spoke about the importance of allowing a committee of 10 to kind of shape the way that Measure C is to be formed. With this, we're talking about a committee of 15, and many of you are opposed to that. So what this shows me is not only how divided we are as a group, but if it's good on one item, it should be good on another item. And so I wanted to bring that up and also thank all of you for sharing your opinions. For me, this is one I've been studying quite a bit because I'm for more liberties and freedoms, absolutely. But at the same time, too, all 5 of us represent all of the county. And many of us have heard from our constituents, and I don't know how we're going to vote at the end of the day, but I represent District 5, which is the east side of Fresno County, and many of my constituents have not only reached out to my office through emails, but telephone calls, sharing with me what they would like to see. And I know that there was a poll that was presented today, kind of an informal poll, and I've seen some informal polls done as well. Fox 26 did a poll, and I called Fox and asked them what were the results of the poll at the end of the day, because I think they had taken it down off of their website. And what they shared with me is 71% of the people who weighed into that poll supported this resolution that Supervisor Brandau was moving forward with. And I don't agree with the clapping and cheering, because I'm just making general statements. And what I want to do is just put information forward, because I listened to the information you put forward, but I want to put some general information forward as well. And so, with all of that being said, as I listen to everything, I think it is important. As a father myself, I have 3 children, and looking at the libraries that I walk into today, the displays, the books are very different than what I experienced 25, 30, 35 years ago when I was going to the library. And so to me, it's important for us to continue to have more and more dialogue, both the left, the right, the people in the middle, so we all can hear each other. Sometimes the loudest voices are the only ones that are heard, and the vast majority of the people who are in the middle, their voices are left out. That's why a representative democracy is so important, because we truly are the only ones who are elected by a majority of those representatives from the county of Fresno. And so with that, I also want to point one thing out, and I apologize, Sally, for putting you on the spot. Sally, if you can stand. Sally is our new county librarian, and she is stepping into a role which is extremely charged, but I can tell you I've had the pleasure of working with Sally for over 20 years when she used to work for the Clovis Independent and her involvement at Fresno EOC, and she is an amazing person. So please be kind to county staff, because they have a very difficult job. But at the end of the day, this Board of Supervisors sets policy for the county, and I'm prepared to do just that after the board members make the rest of their comments.
Okay, Brian. Supervisor Pacheco.
Sure, I'll go. Well, Supervisor Magsig, as always, I appreciate your comments, your thoughtfulness, and your consistency and respectfulness as how you address controversial topics. I think this is one that we'll have a split vote on. I can already predict the vote, as many in the audience can. First, I want to say, Supervisor Brandau, I appreciate your passion and efforts that you've put on this issue, but I think this particular issue is there are no winners in this issue. There are people on both sides, and they're very passionate on both sides. As I've said many times, I pride myself on being the moderate on this board, and sometimes I'll lean left, sometimes I lean right, but I try and do what the majority of people want in representing, because that's how diverse at least my district is. Your district maybe is a little bit different, so it makes your job maybe a little easier. And I know there are people with the best intentions who will be on this committee and who want to serve on this committee, but I believe this committee is a slippery slope. And like you, Supervisor Magsig, I don't agree with the previous 10, and I don't agree with this committee. I realize the intention is not to ban books, but to put them in there where young children can't view them. And in a perfect world, I would hope, like many of the speakers said, that's where the parents step in, and the parents. And I was pleased to learn there's a minimum age to get a library card, because over the course of hearing many people in the emails, I don't feel the library system should be a babysitting center for your kid because you want to just put them in a safe place and dump them off and let them run wild. So I believe the parent should accompany you there. And as a parent of 3, I believe the parent is most suited to make those decisions. Because as many speakers have said, my rules and values are different than yours and everyone else on here, and it's the parents who should have the final say. And again, I realize it's not a book ban, but you're making it harder for those people that want to get those books. You wouldn't even know if they exist if they're not publicly displayed, and most people wouldn't know how to go about this system. And in reviewing this, I look back and I think books like Harry Potter, Charlotte's Web, Tom Sawyer, The Wizard of Oz all have something in common. And in today's times, these books are masterpieces in young people's literature, but they've been banned at somewhere in the United States. And so things can happen. I think democracy and freedom are our most cherished and closely guarded of our principles, and the Board of Supervisors is part of that structure. And we take an oath, as you and my colleagues are very well adept, as we take an oath to hold state and federal laws. And for the moderate up here, our national political divisiveness is not very helpful to us because people are so set in their ways, and that's why we have the chaos we have in Washington and everyone else, because and again, I'll just use Speaker McCarthy. And when, in my opinion, he did the right thing to keep our government going, they removed him. And we can't govern if we don't all get along up here and find some common ground. And I'm very proud to be a part of this board. I'm proud of the people I represent and my colleagues here. While we all have different views, we've generally have managed to find a way to govern and get along for the benefit of most of the people. I don't think this item is going to be one of those items because it's so charged. And again, I want to emphasize, I realize your deal is not to ban books, but it really puts us in a bind. I wanted to know if there was an appeal process in your system, because I want to say one of the speakers that came forward, Michelle, who was our former librarian, county staff, she said we already have a process and we can do that and you can appeal that process. So, well, I want to say I appreciate your efforts. I believe we already have the system in place. We have a method that parents can do that to relocate a book, not to ban a book, but to relocate it. So I find this is a little bit redundant and it's a slippery slope I personally don't want to go down. And for me personally, I think we take what is a parental personal issue and we're now politicizing it, and we shouldn't do that. I think the parent should have the ultimate control, and again, it shouldn't be by a group of people that government people appoint to tell you what's appropriate, not appropriate for your kid. That's a parent's job, not ours. So, Mr. Chairman, I will not support this today based on those reasons. But again, I understand your viewpoint, but I just think we need to find a better ground, and I don't support the committee process in this at all. I think our county library has done a fantastic job. I don't envy you at all for stepping into the role. I mean, you got to thank Ramon for stepping down last week, and throw you right into this. But I believe what Nathan said is good, is we set the policy and you have to implement it. And everything I've heard, you've done a fantastic job. And I look forward with working for you in the future. And you got to have a thicker skin because no matter what happens, you're going to be under a little bit of heat in the next few weeks. So I appreciate what you're willing to do on behalf of all the citizens of Fresno County. And I'm done, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Supervisor Mendes?
I'm always a make lemons out of lemonade kind of guy. So there is some things with the way the resolution and the actual rules that really aren't, I don't think are really workable. I think if you had a committee, it would need to be down to 11, not 15. And I think if you had a committee and they actually said, no, these books got to be moved out of the children's section, that you would have to have a published list in the library that everybody could see what those books were. I'm just looking at this and saying, here's things that are wrong with it. You'd have to do that. So a parent could come, okay, it's that book there. I want that book for my child. It's out in front. Everybody can see it. I think Brian brought up another good point about if this committee comes up with something, what's the appeal process on that? Because there's an appeal process to everything. Because you might have a deal, well, the committee might make a mistake and that wasn't really shouldn't have been pulled. And I think the library itself, I think a lot of people were unfamiliar with the library's process because a parent could complain. And I don't know, I haven't heard anything about what has happened in the past about that. So anyway, these are a few things that I don't know if this is something I hate having to listen to chalk scratch again, but maybe we're not really ready to bring this completely forward. That there may be things that need to be fixed on this before it can be brought forward.
Mr. Chairman, if I could respond to Supervisor Magsig, and so I do want to thank everybody for sharing their views.
You haven't heard my views.
Well, if you'd like to go now.
No, go ahead.
Okay. Well, I was just going to respond to his question, but
Sure,
whichever
go
way
ahead.
you want to work.
No, respond.
Okay.
That's fine.
Supervisor Mendes, there's been a lot of consternation about the committee. in all reality, I would adopt both of your suggestions. So we would, inside of the committee, we could create, inside of the committee, with your leadership, our CAO, an appeals process for the committee to make sure, to even give some surety to folks that the committee doesn't run amok, okay? Supervisor Mendes, you also mentioned the size of the committee. If it, I'm willing to amend my resolution to make it to where the 5 of us would appoint 2 people instead of 3. And then maybe we could add this, because you want to end up with an odd number in these committees. We build a lot of committees in this county, so it's not anything new. We need an odd number in case there is a, so there would be a majority inside the committee that could express. And people like Brian, who's already shared that he's going to oppose this today, he's free to put any members on that committee that he wants to. So I expect there'll be some diversity on that committee. So I will modify the resolution to make it 2 people from each one of us, and then I would ask our CAO maybe to add the 11th person to break any ties. So to hear what you're saying, buddy.
I just want to make one other before Sal talks, that no matter what we do today, 3 other supervisors, even in this group, could change it down the road. And if it isn't working, throw it out.
Yeah, true.
Okay, my turn. I guess I'm the tiebreaker. Want to thank everybody for the comments, emails, regardless of how it was organized, who organized it, or I know there's a lot of individuals that also sent their own personal thoughts on the matter. And one of the things when I first heard about this, I wanted to check and see if there was a process to this, and if anybody that has any objections to where the books are located or who reviews the books. And Sally, am I correct? There is a process that comes down from the state of California to all our county libraries. And the other part that I heard that was mentioned earlier is that if anyone, be it a parent, an individual, or anything, had any objection to any books, they could fill out a form as an individual, submit it to the library, and I guess I don't know where the process goes after that. It's reviewed, or yeah, if you don't mind. My point is there is a process in place for a lot of this.
Yes, you are correct. We have a process in place for reviewing items that are submitted for reconsideration.
Okay. Thank you. Both, I respect all my colleagues and whatever thoughts they may have on this discussion, but I know that both Supervisor Pacheco and Supervisor Mendes have to some degree dealt with library issues, as you were both school board members for different school districts, and I appreciate that experience that you've brought forward, and I do a lot of what you were going to mention is what I wanted to follow up with, and the thing that kept resonating, and I've gone and talked to a lot of folks about this, is the one thing that stuck with me, and it seems both sides keep repeating it, is parents matter. And, that with that, it's more that for me, that the parents should be able to decide what their children should read and that type of thing. And I mentioned earlier, too, at the start of the meeting, that one of the things that I do appreciate about our colleagues is that we're able to agree to disagree and move on to the next issue. But always in the forefront is what we feel is what is the best for Fresno County. And to me, we already have a lot of the safeguards in place on what we have in our libraries and where they're located. I mean, somebody brought up to me as I were talking, they go, well, maybe we need to ban National Geographic out of the library. And I said, well, I don't know, I think they're in all the libraries and biology books as well, so there's a lot to be said about that, too. That's a whole different discussion. But I think it's more, the parents, I feel, should be the ones raising the children, not the government. And so with that, I want to thank you, Supervisor Brandau, for all the work you've put in, the thought, and, I just feel we have a good system in place, and I'll respectfully disagree. So with that,
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion to approve the Parents Matter Act with these changes to change the structure of the committee from a committee of 15 people to 11, with each supervisor nominating 2 people that they feel would be quality people to serve on this committee. And then we'll add our CAO can name 1 person of his choice that could break any ties. I'll make that change. And then also with the leadership of the CAO, working with our head librarian to create a system where even that committee can have an appeals process inside of it. And so I'll make that motion.
And then what about also adding that any books that are moved out of the children's section, there would be a published list which would identify which books have been moved?
Absolutely, I forgot about that.
And displayed for the public to see.
And displayed for everybody to see, because that's a great point, and thank you for reminding me, and I'll make that change as well.
With that, I'll second that motion.
okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No.
3-2 with motion passes was,
No, he didn't vote.
sorry.
You need to do a roll call, Bernice. Do a roll call.
Yeah, do a roll call.
Okay. Supervisor Brandau?
Yes.
Supervisor Magsig?
Aye.
Supervisor Mendes?
My aye is only if it comes back again with the corrections, and it's on consent.
Okay, so it includes a return to the board with those amendments. Supervisor Pacheco?
No.
Chairman Quintero?
No.
3-2 with Supervisor Pacheco and Quintero voting no. We now move to, Mr. Chairman, we're now going to move
Thank
to,
you all very much.
we're now going to move to the items that were pulled from consent, which is item 37 and 38 under County Council.
Maybe you should learn how the library works before you decide how it doesn't. Yes. You didn't even have a presentation from the library. Mr.
Thank you all for your time. We're moving on to the next agenda item.